deep history and lore focus of this channel, it's not surprising that most of the topics I cover tend to focus on events in Westeros that happened long ago. So I want to do something a little bit different with this week, and spend some time looking at the more present timeline of A Song of Ice and Fire, and delve into the lore around some of the newest houses in Westeros, houses that were born amidst the chaos of the War of the Five Kings, and in the wake of Robert's rebellion. The circumstances of these new houses coming to exist range from something as simple as the male line dying out, to a whole house being wiped out during war, and men like knights being raised as lords as rewards by the crown. In this video, we're going to take a look at the houses that tick all of these boxes, but I also want to spend some time highlighting why a newly raised house in Westeros isn't necessarily the good thing you might first think of. I rule in Riverrun by the king's own decree. I, Aemon, the Lord Commander, knows about the king's decree. Sir Edmure knows about the king's decree. The stable boys know about the king's decree. Aemon Frey and Jenna Lannister, A Feast for Crows Chapter 44. Jaime 7. I think the best place to start is to take a look at some of the houses that have been created as a result of the War of the Five Kings. Given the outcome of the war, many of the houses that have ties to House Lannister have been raised in places you could consider the losing side of the war. There's even a bit of an interesting quirk with the War of the Five Kings, because most of the houses that were raised in the wake of it tend to be cadet branches of already established houses. The most well-known of these cadet branches that was raised is probably House Frey of Riverrun. It's created when House Tully is stripped of its lands and titles for joining Robb Stark in rebellion against the Iron Throne. The lands are bestowed upon Sir Aemon Frey, the second son of Lord Walder Frey. Aemon's wife is Lady Jenna Lannister. This very much is Walder Frey's reward for the Red Wedding, and it makes sense given that Aemon Frey is the one chosen to head this new house, given he is Walder's second son. But it's also not a coincidence that Jenna Lannister is the younger sister of Tywin Lannister, and thus aunt of the king. So this isn't just House Frey being rewarded for its role in the Red Wedding, but also a way for Tywin and House Lannister to expand a more direct influence over Riverrun. The issue for Aemon Frey is Sir Brendan Tully, the Blackfish, refuses all calls to surrender the castle, and Riverrun endures a long siege beneath the combined forces of the Freys and Lannisters. As this stalemate drags on, Jaime Lannister assumes command from Sir Davin Lannister and Sir Ryman Frey, in hopes of bringing the matter to a swift end. Aemon Frey remains at the siege, loudly insisting that Riverrun must not be damaged by any assault upon its walls, believing the castle now his rightful seat. His wife, Jenna Lannister, takes a harsher view, arguing that Edmure Tully should simply be executed, since using him to persuade Brendan has accomplished nothing. Aemon also mistakenly believes the possession of Riverrun makes him the ruler of the Riverlands, only for Jaime to remind him that Riverrun now answers to Harrenhal and Petyr Baelish, Lord Paramount of the Trident. At a parley beneath the castle walls, Brendan rejects Jaime's surrender terms outright. He then turns to Edmure Tully, threatening that if Riverrun does not yield, he will storm the castle, sacrificing countless rivermen, and hurl Edmure's unborn child against the wall. Faced with such threats, Edmure finally agrees to negotiate the surrender of Riverrun from House Tully to House Frey. Though the transfer is completed without bloodshed, victory proves incomplete. Brendan escapes through the river gate before the castle can be fully secured, a humiliation that leaves Aemon Frey furious. In the aftermath, Aemon holds Riverrun with a garrison of 200 men, with the singer Tom of Seven Streams chosen to remain at the castle, offering his songs to Lord Aemon and Lady Jenna. We also have the new House Lannister of Darry, which is another clear case of the Lannisters trying to expand their reach into the Riverlands. Now, what is a bit different here is rather than House Darry being stripped of their lands and titles, the house becomes technically extinct when the last male Darry is killed during the War of the Five Kings. Sir Lancel Lannister is granted Castle Darry and its lands after the Battle of the Blackwater. He's betrothed to Amory Frey, daughter of Maria Darry, who herself had married in to House Frey. All this is part of the alliance binding between the Lannisters and the Freys. The arrangement is met with bitterness by Maria's younger sister, Jane Darry, who believes the lordship should rightfully have passed to one of her own sons instead. Though the banners of the new house combines the Lion of Lannister with the Ploughman of Darry, following Sir Kevin's design, the castle itself comes to feel more like a Frey holding, owing to the sheer number of Freys present and Lancel's growing indifference to lordly rule. Initially, Sir Harwin Plum is sent to clear Darry lands of outlaws and broken men, but achieves little success. Later, Sir Lyle Crakehall departs Riverrun to continue the effort, spurred on in part by his fascination with Amory. In the end, Lancel abandons it all, renouncing both his lordship and his unconsummated marriage. He joins the warrior's sons, turning away from worldly power in pursuit of religious devotion, so it's unclear if House Lannister of Darry died as quick as it was born, or who holds the lands and titles of House Darry now. You and your threats, well, we will see. I am the king's friend, you know. We shall hear what Joffrey has to say about this, and Littlefinger and the queen, oh yes. Janos Slynt has a good many friends. We will see who goes sailing, I promise you. Indeed we will. Janos Slynt to Tyrion Lannister, A Clash of Kings Chapter 8, Tyrion 2. During the War of the Five Kings, Harrenhal and its lands are given as reward to Janos Slynt. House Slynt was thus created when Joffrey Baratheon raises Janos, who was commander at the City Watch at King's Landing, to the nobility. The reward was given for what the crown called service to the realm, though in truth it came from Janos' betrayal of Eddard Stark during Eddard's attempt to seize control of the king and the regency after the death of Robert Baratheon. Along with the title, Janos was granted the lands and incomes and rights of Harrenhal to pass on to his descendants after his death, elevating a man of low birth into the ranks of the great lords of Westeros. The blazon is a bloody spear, gold on a field of black knight, with a border of checked gold and black. Tyrion Lannister, serving as acting hand of the king, soon grows distrustful of Janos and moves to strip House Slynt of Harrenhal, seeing it as too high of a reward for a man such as Janos Slynt. Janos himself is commanded to take the black and is sent by force to the Night's Watch. Even so, Tyrion declares that Janos' son, Moros, will retain the title of Lord Slynt, though Harrenhal is lost to them. Moros is promised lesser lands and a keep of his own, a far humbler inheritance than the vast and cursed castle his father had briefly possessed. As far as the published texts are concerned, they have yet to be given a new keep and lands, and given how much politically has changed between that decree by Tyrion and the end of A Dance with Dragons, with Tyrion now in Essos, Tommen now as king, it seems like that the Slynts may have actually been forgotten by the crown. Harrenhal is then granted to Petyr Baelish following the Battle of the Blackwater, as well as the title of Lord Paramount of the Trident as a reward for arranging the alliance between House Lannister and House Tyrell, and the betrothal of Margaery to King Joffrey. Some view this as a forming of a new house, but this really isn't the case. House Baelish had been lords of a small tower keep and lands for a few generations in the Fingers, so Petyr being granted Harrenhal doesn't create a new house. Rather, House Baelish are no longer petty lords, but could arguably be counted amongst the great houses in terms of power, if Petyr does in fact take his seat at Harrenhal. But in no hurry to occupy the cursed castle, Petyr assumes the power of Lord Protector of the Eyrie and the Vale of Arryn, following the death of Lysa Arryn, who had granted him the title after their marriage. We must also consider the idea that Harrenhal is cursed, so who knows how long Littlefinger will actually hold it for. Lady Arya sobs do us more harm than all of Lord Stannis' swords and spears. If the bastard means to remain Lord of Winterfell, he had best teach his wife to laugh. Barbary Dustin to Theon Greyjoy. A Dance with Dragons Chapter 41. The Turncloak. There are two very new houses that have also come about as a result of the War of the Five Kings in the north. One is really obvious, the other greatly overlooked. House Thenn is founded through the marriage of Sigurd Magnar the Thenn and Lady Alice Karstark. Their banner is a bronze disc, surrounded with red flame on a white field. The union was arranged by Jon Snow during his time as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, both to secure an alliance and to protect Alice from her cousin, Cregan Karstark, who sought to force her into a marriage in order to seize Karhold. Alice stood as the heir to her brother Harrison Karstark, the rightful lord of the castle, who at the time remained a captive in Maidenpool. Cregan's branch of the family hoped to claim the seat through Harrison's death, and dark rumours already circulated around the fate of Cregan's previous wife. The wedding took place at Castle Black, with Melisandre, the Red Priestess of R'hllor, herself performing the ceremony. For the occasion, the stewards of the Night's Watch hastily devised new heraldry for House Thenn, adorning Alicent's bridal cloak with the arms of her new house. Should Harris and Karstark die without issue, the union of Sigurd and Alice would place House Thenn in line to become the rulers of Karhold. The less obvious new house is in fact House Bolton of Winterfell, a cadet branch of the original Dreadfort house. Roose Bolton, Lord of the Dreadfort, and father, Ramsay Bolton, betrays Robb Stark at the Red Wedding, helping bring an end to the Northern King's cause. In reward for his treachery, the Iron Throne names Roose Warden of the North and grants legitimacy to Ramsay, his bastard son. Soon after this, Stillshanks Bolton departs King's Landing, escorting a girl presented as Arya Stark, intended to wed Ramsay and secure House Bolton's claim over Winterfell. In truth, this girl is actually Jane Poole. Though Lord Tywin Lannister supports the arrangement publicly, he privately expects the Boltons to wear themselves down fighting the Ironborn, leaving the North to later designs of his own, potentially via Tyrion's marriage to Sansa Stark. Ramsay quickly begins styling himself Lord of Winterfell, even before his position is secure. Roose gathers northern bannermen to the ruined castle, where repairs proceed amidst the cold and ruin, and the marriage between Ramsay and this false Arya is held beneath the heart tree in Winterfell's Godswood. During the savage blizzard that follows, Theon Greyjoy and Jane manage to flee the castle with the help of the Spearwives. Their escape leads them into the hands of Mors Umber beyond the castle walls. I think the reason House Bolton of Winterfell gets so greatly overlooked is because of the way the text is written. It doesn't go out of its way to explain to the reader, who might not have dived into the lore of cadet houses, that what Ramsay in fact has is a cadet branch. Also, the fact that Ramsay is Roose's heir and thus the heir to the Dreadfort also might muddy things in the minds of some readers. Similar to the Bolton situation, we also have House Tyrell of Brightwater Keep. The new house is created after House Florent, the rulers of Brightwater Keep, are stripped of their lands and titles for rebelling against the Iron Throne in support of Stannis Baratheon. The lands and keep are bestowed on Sir Garland Tyrell, the second son of Lord Mace Tyrell, for his participation in the Battle of the Blackwater. However, Brightwater itself remains in the hands of a Florent garrison. House Baratheon poses an interesting issue when it comes to this question of new houses. In the wake of Robert's rebellion, Robert grants the traditional Baratheon seat of Storm's End to his youngest brother Renly, and Dragonstone to Stannis Baratheon, and he himself forms a new cadet branch of House Baratheon at King's Landing. In theory, this means there are at least at the start of the main books 3 active branches of House Baratheon, each with their own seat and each independent from the other. But here's where things get interesting. When it comes to cadet branches, they are normally sworn to some degree to their senior branch. Let's use House Bolton of Winterfell being sworn to the main more senior Dreadfort branch as an example. This is not the case with House Baratheon, where Robert Baratheon, the head of the house, forms his own cadet branch. With this branch effectively being the royal family, it outranks the original Storm's End branch of the house. So we're in this odd situation where the senior Storm's End line is sworn to his own cadet branch. The situation is a bit messy, and it's really not clear how this arrangement would have played out long term. It may have ended up like the Fossaway situation, where the Green Apple Fossaways are no longer, or never were, directly sworn to the senior Red Apple branch. It's just that the Iron Throne aspect of this is what makes the Baratheon situation so confusing. Connected to House Baratheon of Dragonstone, we have House Seaworth, who is also considered a very new house. I was also going to include House Riker in this video, the house who replaced the Darklands as Lords of Duskendel. Many I think assume that the Rikers were raised up as lords when they were given the lordship of Duskendel by King Aerys II. But there's nothing that I can find in the lore that actually suggests that they were a new house, and not an already existing one that was perhaps local to the area, but very minor. However, I do concede that it is a bit odd that if they are an established house, there's no mention of them in the history and lore at any point before the Defiance of Duskendel.